I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nations, and to acknowledge their elders past, present and emerging, and pay my deep respect to Uncle Alan for providing the welcome to country. And I can't see him here, but thank you deeply. I want to begin by speaking about leadership. It isn't easy to be a leader, and it takes true courage, strength of character and a rock-solid determination. And tonight's fundraising event has brought together some extraordinarily inspiring leaders from many different areas. From Clovermore's visionary leadership and exceptional negotiation skills in securing unanimous support for 100% divestment from fossil fuels investments by the City of Sydney's councillors, to the extraordinary path my friend David Suzuki, who has championed the science of climate change for decades, even when the rest of the world didn't really want to know anything about it. And I'd like to extend my sincere thanks on behalf of myself, DICE and Allgrid Energy to these two leaders for being a part of tonight and for committing their voices, their strengths and their vision in support of the health and vitality of Indigenous people. So now the feature of tonight's is a panel discussion, which also brings together 6 inspiring individuals who are each following unique and diverse leadership paths. And I'm confident that their experience and perspectives will ensure a fascinating and illuminating conversation about the challenges of Indigenous well-being and suicide prevention. And they're just here, and thank you so much for making the time to be here. It's such an important event. And I also appreciate your time, Rod. There he is, he's over here. A new mate of mine, Rod Gonzalez, generously offered to facilitate this evening's discussion. Rod is the CEO of Nana Australia, which is a subsidiary of the world's largest 100% Indigenous owned and operated company. It's a pretty significant achievement. So obviously Rod and his company are passionate supporters of Indigenous businesses, and I'm excited to have made a connection with him and his team, and look forward to growing our working relationship into the future. Now, I was asked only hours ago by Rod and several others actually in recent times about what inspired this event and what did we hope to achieve. And it's obvious that we want to raise awareness around mental health issues, but also to raise awareness around the projects that we've completed recently, which no doubt have a positive effect on the well-being and mental health state of the people living in communities that we work in. And the more we complete, the more people we will affect. Now, I'm going to share a personal story of why raising awareness plays such an important part of tonight. And people who have heard me speak before know that I generally don't mind sharing a story or two, and I don't mind having a bit of a laugh at the same time. And I generally share some happy times and stories about my time out in remote regions and growing up around communities. But tonight I'll share a different version of a life experience out in the communities. And some of you, as you just heard, I'm a sparky by trade, and some of you might also know that I've been around the electrical industry and working out in remote regions since before I was even an apprentice. And it's back in the old days working out in the Tiwi Islands that I'll speak about tonight. And the housing association back in the day over there where I was working had the best group of young Tiwi Islander workers building homes out there that you could hope for. They were happy at work and arrived to work more often than not, and made the site an absolute pleasure to be around. And the only reason I can swear in the Tiwi language is because those blokes would teach me that, and they thought they'd get a good laugh out of it. And so these guys were more than just colleagues; they were my friends. But the sad thing is, though, that on one day you can be having a laugh with your mate, and the next day he doesn't arrive to work, and then you learn that he's taken his own life. And this happened more than I care to think about. It's not a one-off event. I would often learn that the family had found my friend hanging from a fan hook in the bedroom. And that sparked another memory in me, and that was as a young kid. Helping my dad out doing electrical maintenance in these homes, and I'd see the old D shackle on the roof, and that's what used to hold a ceiling fan up. But I would see little pieces of cotton stuck on those hooks. And I recall asking my dad about, what is that stuff up there? Because I was a kid. But he protected me from the truth of that answer. And I came to learn only too well those pieces of fabric and what they were later on in life. And it's a truly sad event when friends think the only option they have is to take their own life. So, if we raise awareness around mental health issues, we may raise awareness for the average person to recognise that their friend might need help, before it gets too late. So that's close to my heart, and it adds to the desire of pushing for change. So how does the work of a tech company or renewable energy company relate to health, you might ask? Well, obviously Lord Mayor Clover Moore touched on this, and as she mentioned, our companies have projects underway in remote communities. And the thing is, when you're out there, it's impossible not to be impacted by the devastating effect of mental health, depression, and in far too many cases, suicide. So, it's not that story that we want to bring to you tonight. What we want to share with you is the inspiration that we feel witnessing communities beginning to regenerate when they have access to affordable, quality, renewable power. And the project financed on the lease agreement with the Mununggurra communities, as mentioned already by the Lord Mayor, is a perfect example. The social outcomes mentioned are awesome. We've got 2 people back to 40. That's awesome. 15 kids back to school. Amazing. So this is a community living the true effect of having affordable, quality power. And Graham Smith, the CEO out in the Mununggurra communities, has told me his community is happier and healthier, and that to me sounds like people with a positive mental health shift. Pardon me. So through the process of regeneration, this community is realising self-sufficiency, self-determination, self-empowerment. And one of our panel members, a young man, a young leader I've so much respect for, is Elijah Douglas, and he'll be able to tell you himself what it will mean for the communities to have an affordable and renewable power supply. So again, as mentioned by Clover Moore, the next stage in the projects at Badungu, which is close to where Elijah comes from Doomadgee, we'll be bringing our partners on, Alpha Technologies, to supply a satellite split feed system. So affordable internet can be provided, and this will be bring that community online. And most of us take the internet for granted, and it gives us access to a world of possibilities and a world of inspiration. And in a community like this, it also means people will have access to online education and health services. So these are services that will foster community well-being and in turn provide support for the individuals who make up that community. So something else really exciting at the moment is that there's a profoundly significant intersection that's appearing. So the research and development of renewable and biotechnologies is racing ahead and kicking some incredible goals. And the price of these technologies is dropping and consumer interest is rising. But even more importantly, from our point of view and our perspective, is the increasing awareness Indigenous Australia and Indigenous nations in other parts of the world have of their own economic power and the liberating potential of renewable and biotechnologies. In our work, we're seeing firsthand the transformative power of these technologies for community regeneration. So, we're very privileged. So, as David mentioned, we met a few months ago in Vancouver, and I was having a chat with David, or Dr. David Suzuki, just having a chat as you do. And I asked him how he had himself stood strong in the face of decades of relentless attacks that he'd experienced in the media for his determination to keep championing the science of climate change. And he said to me that everything he knew about resilience and determination he had learned from Indigenous people. And hearing him say that gave me goosebumps, because he speaks a great truth. And despite the process, as mentioned again, of colonisation, Indigenous people, First Nations people, we're still here and we're still strong and we are resilient. And the wisdom of sustainability and stewardship of the earth is still held in our cultural memory, still held in many of our communities. And we have much to teach the world as to the way forward in a changing climate. And this is why we need to create more leaders rather than followers. People look to the leader and feel comfortable, that they know the way. And as a business with a clear alliance with First Nations peoples, we want to show leadership in our business model and methodology. Long gone are the days of businesses that should just take the money and run. We live in an incredible planet, and these are incredible yet challenging times. And each of us has a responsibility to do the very best that we can. Each of us has a responsibility to rise to these challenges, and I believe that the business world shares this responsibility too. When businesses invest in a higher standard and in a better world, all of us stand to benefit. And so I want to acknowledge each and every one of you, and for your presence and participation tonight. No matter the journey, we can all choose to be leaders through our choices, through the courage that we show, and the commitment that we make to a greater good. And I have one final thank you before we begin the panel discussion, and I can't wait to hear you guys speak and I can have a little relax. And many of you know Deborah Oberon. Deborah's been our All-Grid Marketing Manager from the very beginning, and she's done an amazing job of raising our profile and assisting us to define our vision. And Deborah's pushed really hard to make tonight a success in less than the 4 weeks that we gave her to do it. So if you can maybe just put up your hand, Deb. So it pulled it together very well. And Deb, a leader in her own right, has formed Regenerator Communications and PR company for businesses working in a sphere of innovation, transformation. So thanks, Deb, not only for your hard work, but for your friendship too. Much appreciated. So let me conclude by letting you know that tonight's fundraiser is just a precursor to an even more successful conference that we'll be hosting next year on these issues. And so we intend to continue to create a space for an even greater diversity of views and experiences where Indigenous people and their allies can be the shapers of the advocates for transformational change. So thank you.